Hey everyone, I'm Brian with Aromacup.com, and thank you guys as always for joining me here in my virtual coffee shop brought to you by Aromacup.com. In today's video, I'm going to do a side-by-side comparison of versus, if you will, between two great Nespresso single-serve espresso machines. I have the brand new Nespresso U, because it's all about you, and then we have the old standby Nespresso Citiz. We talked about this guy numerous times in many other videos. It's been around for a while. Still a real crowd pleaser, but we're going to kind of see how the Nespresso U stacks up against the Citiz and talk about the differing features between the two, so you guys have all the information you need to make an informed purchase if you go out to get one of these machines. So without further ado, let's dive in and talk about the Nespresso U and the Nespresso Citiz. All right, so the first thing we're going to do is just go over what you have with these machines, their general features and things like that before we show you them in operation. Now, starting from the bottom of both of these machines, we always like to start at the very front on the bottom of the machine. Both of them have trays which are removable and resizable and things like that. However, there's definitely some major difference between the two. On the Nespresso U, the tray just removes really easily, and that's because it's held on with a magnet. So you can just kind of take it off, but it's going to stay in place because of the magnet that you have there. You can also store it on the side of the machine because there's a magnet on both sides of the machine. So that's pretty cool, as in comparison to the Citiz, again, it can be removed. You can push the single tray up here, because this is the first tray, which is great for your espresso cups and shot glasses, things like that. But you can remove the tray just the same, but it's not held on with a magnet, so it's definitely not as fancy. Both of them have these sort of nicely machined grates, which is cool. You know, they look cool. The Nespresso U definitely has a little bit of an advantage there because it just looks a little more finessed and not necessarily more classy, but definitely a little more stylized. Now, there is a little more clearance space, as you can see here on the Citiz as opposed to the U. And that's probably good if you maybe like to use very large tumblers very often. Maybe you do iced drinks or something like that. You're going to get more clearance on the Citiz. Both of them, speaking of the tray, use the same collection system that Nespresso has used for all of their machines. You can simply pull out this pod collection tray that you have in each of the machines, and this is where your spent pods are going to land. And then you can simply empty out that pod holder. The brew spigot on both of these, really straightforward. It's just a simple brew spigot. It's where your espresso is going to come out of. There's nothing different about either of these except for the shape and the overall design of each one. You may like one design a little bit more than another. I think they both look pretty cool, especially on a countertop next to maybe another coffee machine, something like that. There is a major difference in water tank between both of these machines, and here's a few of them. First of all, let's talk about the U. I mentioned this in one of our other videos. The water tank is held on with magnets, so there's a lot of magnet usage on the Nespresso U. The water tank on the Citiz is not held on with magnets. It's a little bit bigger. This is a 33-ounce tank for the Citiz, and then you have a 27-ounce tank for the Nespresso U. But they kind of look just about the same when it comes to, I mean, seemingly I would think that's about the same amount of water. A little more stylized again on the U. It's got this cool round shape, it's held on with magnets, and the lid to it is a little more easy to use. It just kind of simply is held on with a small rubber grommet, whereas over here on the Citiz, it's just a simple lid on top of the water tank. Now, where the U definitely wins a little bit when it comes to the water tank is that you can actually move the water tank around. So if you have a very little amount of space on your countertop, you can simply swivel around the water tank holder right here. And that lets you move that, and then you can push this back up onto a smaller countertop, something like that. Can't do that with the Citiz. Still not really a big deal because neither one takes up a whole lot of counter space. All right, let's talk about power buttons on both of these. The Citiz has a power button which is located on the back left-hand side of it right here. And it's just a normal power button, kind of thing we see on most of these machines. Clicks on, clicks off. And on the Nespresso U, well, there is no power button. The power button is the lever for the brew chamber, and we'll talk about that in just a moment, but there is no power button on this machine. It's really sleek and stylized, very simple. So speaking of the buttons on the machines, let's talk about the brew buttons on both of them. Pretty straightforward on both. Nespresso really does stick to a policy of simplicity when it comes to their machines, which is great. Let me just mention the Nespresso U to start off with. The U has 3 simple buttons on top of it. And these buttons, starting from the top, you have your Lungo, then you have your Espresso, and then you have your Ristretto. So you can do 3 different brew sizes using the Nespresso U. This is a little bit different from the Nespresso Citiz, which only has 2 buttons on top of it. These are rubberized. And you have a single shot and a double shot of espresso. So these are rubberized. They're actual physical press buttons. I mean, you actually press down on them in order to start the brewing process, whereas over here on the Nespresso U, these buttons are touch sensitive. You're going to notice that all I'm doing is just kind of lightly touching them with my finger and they start glowing. So that's kind of cool. There's no physical button that I'm really pressing here that clicks or anything like that. This is just a touch sensitive button. Now, the other thing that's different between these 2 machines is the brew chamber. The brew chamber on the Citiz is the same one that Nespresso has used for a little while now. To make use of it, you just simply pop this lever open. There's a apparatus inside of there that actually punctures your Nespresso capsule when you open it up. So this is the system that we've been used to using for quite some time now. It's a physical system. It works very, very well, but you actually are in charge of puncturing that capsule. In contrast, over here on the Nespresso U, all that you need to do is open up the brew chamber. And I'm going to show that to you guys in just a moment here, because if I open the brew chamber and I close it, the machine's actually going to start brewing. So that's probably the biggest difference between the brewing on both of these machines, is that the Nespresso U is a whole heck of a lot more automatic. It's very automatic. In fact, it's the most automatic of a single serve espresso machine I've ever seen. So you don't puncture the capsule yourself with the Nespresso U. The machine does that for you. It handles all of the ejection of spent pods. And really, like I say, it's the most automatic machine I've ever seen when it comes to an espresso machine. So that's the major difference, I think, between the 2 of these, is how brewing is done and how pods are made use of. So let's show the brewing in action and show you the difference between the 2. So let's go ahead and make a shot of espresso first using the Nespresso Citiz. Really easy to do on this machine. All you need to do is pop open that lever on the top of it, take your Grand Cru capsule, place that into the brew chamber, and then close down onto that Grand Cru capsule, and now just choose your brew size. I'm going to go ahead and press the single shot right here. It's pretty fast. The Citiz is definitely still one of the fastest operating machines I've ever seen. The pump on both of these machines is a 19 bar pressure pump, so there is more pressure in both of these machines than is usually even the recommended standard for an espresso machine, which is great. So they do manage to make a really great shot of espresso. So that was pretty quick with the Citiz. The only thing is now I have to open up the brew chamber in order to eject the spent capsule, close it back up if I want to brew another one. And of course, if I did want to keep brewing water into that capsule, I could just press the brew button on top of the machine again and keep running water through the capsule, and I can do that until I eject the capsule. Now, one thing that I should mention is you're going to notice that that's quite a large shot of espresso. That's more of a lungo, and I actually did press the single shot button on the Citiz. The reason for that is that the buttons are programmable, so you can program the buttons on the Citiz in order to make them use more water when brewing. So it is programmable to a certain extent, but there's not a whole lot that's automatic on the machine beyond actually brewing the coffee. So let's show in contrast the difference with brewing with the Nespresso U, which is definitely very different. I've placed my espresso shot glass right here underneath the brew spigot. Now the first thing that I'm going to do, I mentioned earlier that I wasn't going to open and close that brew chamber lever because if I did that it would start brewing. And that's true. What I want to do to start off with before I start brewing is choose my brew size. And I'm going to go ahead and do espresso right here, which would essentially be a single shot of espresso. So I'm going to press the middle button. It's glowing green now. Now all I need to do is open up the brew chamber, take my Grand Cru capsule, pop into the brew chamber, just drop it in, and then close that lever. I didn't need to do anything there. I didn't need to force the lever onto the capsule in order to puncture it or anything like that, and the machine just immediately starts brewing. And it's doing all of this by itself. Again, I didn't have to puncture that capsule or anything like that. I just chose my size of espresso shot that I wanted to brew, pop the capsule, and boom, it starts brewing. So this is a little more straightforward. That's an actual shot of espresso right there. Now, the machine will also automatically eject the spent capsule for you. You may have heard that. The machine was actually ejecting the spent capsule. It does that after 4 seconds. So, as I was saying, on the Citiz, you can continue brewing if you want to. You can do that on the U, but you need to make sure that you catch it within 4 seconds after brewing and start brewing again by just pressing one of those buttons. That'll continue to run water through it. If you don't, that spent capsule is going to drop, and that capsule is spent at that point. You're done, and you're going to need to drop another capsule in. So it's something to keep in mind if maybe you like to do longer pulls of espresso or anything like that. But that's how easy it is to work between these two machines. The U definitely, when you come right down to ease and the overall automatic nature, the U really wins. And that's a funny thing to say, considering that the Citiz previously was probably one of the fastest espresso single serve machines I've ever seen. And this one, the Nespresso U, just knocked it out of the park again. So pretty cool operation on both of these machines. I have to say the U, I think, is one of the coolest that I've seen so far. And not too much else to compare between the two. They're both going to use the same capsules and create great shots of espresso. But let's talk about the price point between both of these machines. Price point between these two machines is relatively close. The Citiz is retailing for about $249, and the Nespresso U retailing right now for about $199. So the U is actually cheaper than the Citiz, which I found interesting. Now, you can get some coupons in order to save some money on both of these machines. Check out our link right here in our video and click on that. You're going to be able to save a little bit of money on both of these machines and find out how you can save some more money at Aromacup.com, of course. But both of these machines coming in pretty well on the price point, offering a lot if you're an espresso lover. Obviously, they only make espresso. They don't make cups of coffee or anything like that. They only make espresso. So that's something to keep in mind. There's no milk pods for these machines or anything like that. But if you want a really good shot of espresso, one of these machines is definitely going to do it the best for you. It just depends on what you like when it comes to ease. As I say, if you want the easiest possible experience, the Nespresso U is the way you want to go. If you want a little more brew space for being able to put a larger cup underneath your brew spigot and maybe just a little more manual operation of your machine, check out the Citiz. Still a great standby machine. Either way, both of them make a killer shot of espresso, which I love. So as always, guys, I'm Brian with Aromacup.com reminding you to enjoy your cup, and I'll see you next time. Take care.